In 1970, a young executive at Last Place ABC challenged the establishment with a revolutionary idea: cover the NFL like showbiz.
ABC wasn't doing particularly well. So Roone Arledge, who was probably the most important man in the history of sports television, convinced his bosses, hey, let's give it a shot. ABC wound up putting cameras on the 20s, so now you're looking right down the line.
Leroy Kelly on the Cleveland sweep. He made a great cut right here.
And you talked about Roone Arledge, some of the things he did. I mean, a true pioneer, the three-man booth.
I told you about the 1955 game at the old Polo Grounds against the then Chicago Cardinals. Gifford fumbled 4 times. He almost...
No, I did not.
How many times?
Tell the truth, Bob.
Monday Night Football had 9 cameras as opposed to 4 or 5, eventually got to 17. You had the parabolic mics.
CBS and NBC, they would have to do 4 or 5 games. So they need 4 or 5 crews, whatever it cost in the budget, it had to be spread out over all of those games. ABC had 1 game.
They come in like gangbusters, 40 engineers, 20 production people.
So they could put all of their resources into Monday Night Football, which is what they did.
You can watch him get hit. And it was a good clean lick, but the ball was right in between the 1 and the 3.
And he truly brought show business to sports. I mean, you had shots of the cheerleaders, you had interviews.
Of course, Weeb Eubank has characterized this Jets team, Joe, as superior even to the Super Bowl champions of 1969. Do you agree?
No, I don't, but I hope we great.
Yeah, I sat down with you guys before every game. I just never had to do that.
Roone's feeling was, a game is a game. Some are more exciting than others, but people are always interested in people.
You can't talk about Monday Night Football without talking Howard Cosell.
We can't.
Howard would like us talking about Howard,
of course.
From what I hear.
The single fulcrum that projected me into national prominence was Monday Night Football, 3 hours in prime time.
I did 1 football game with a Pro Bowl in 1980, the first time they took the Pro Bowl to Hawaii.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the beauty of Hawaii. With us today, without question, one of the finest play-by-play announcers in sports broadcast, Al Mike.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you very much. Great to be here, and I look forward to a very high-scoring game. We've got some new rules.
I was at that game. My dad played that Pro Bowl.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
Archie was in that 1980. You were there. But the thing with Cosell, hugely intelligent, very smart, would have to show you constantly how smart he was.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 3 downs and over for the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's been their wont so often tonight at a time when they desperate. Their wont. W-O-N-T.
Oh, Howard.
The education of Dandy Don continues. We await the punt.
If he's talking about a player, he'd throw in his middle name and his hometown.
That one was intercepted by number 44, Bruce Taylor from Boston University.
Stan Musial in baseball was Stanley Frank Musial, the man himself from Donora, Pennsylvania, right? So
just to let you know,
he knew everything. He said things that nobody said.
We look at the man who can't smile and think at the same time. That's our average viewer at this point. Giff, I think when this one is over, we should get the films of the game and take them around to local high schools as a study in futility.
Howard said that, America.
The story goes that Cosell liked to wear the Monday Night Football yellow jacket around town.
Restaurants, hotel lobbies, airports, you name it. Never took it off. But the classic story involves Jim McKay at a Kentucky Derby, and Jim was working the show with Howard. McKay is checking into the hotel, and Howard, of course, is sitting in the lobby. And 8 or 9 people are around him. He's got the cigar and the toupee. And he sees McKay, and he goes, Jimmy, look at this. This is crazy. There's no place I can go to be alone. And McKay, without stopping, goes by Cosell and goes, Howard, have you thought about your room?
Yeah. Try that.
We've got some halftime highlights for you in the wake of yesterday's unbelievable results.
Back then, there was no prime time, no internet. The only way to see highlights from Sunday was to watch Howard Cosell at halftime on Monday night.
Now we're going to take you into our regular halftime pattern, highlights of NFL games provided by NFL Films.
There's no music, it's just Cosell calling them, kind of in play-by-play format.
Archie Manning.
out of Ole Miss. Number 8, scrambling the way he used to in college. Looking deep downfield. Throwing. To number 83, Dave Parks, once the leading pass receiver in the National Football League. And New Orleans is on the scoreboard.
It was huge. The only way to find out what was going on in the other game.
On Sunday night, you couldn't see highlights because we had local news and sports, period.
Handoff to Walter Peyton, the brilliant sophomore who's electrifying Chicago fans. Starback running up toward the line of scrimmage, then hitting his favorite target, Drew Pearson. Billy White Shoes Johnson, what a catch! Now into his act.
NFL Films would send the film out to the site of the Monday night game, and Howard would freelance it in a way.
Chuck Foreman again. What statistics on the day? 28 rushes, 200 yards. This one good for 32 yards and a touchdown.
Remember, he didn't have a lot of notes.
Well, you saw Archie Manning throw, and it's a touchdown.
He was able to do things like if Tony Dorsett run 80 yards for a touchdown, and all he knew about Tony was he was a Heisman Trophy winner at Pitt.
Right, yeah.
And he might say, there he is, Tony Dorsett, the Heisman Trophy winner from Pittsburgh. He's now gone around the right side. He's out
off the edge.
He could go all the way. And Howard had such a cadence and such a rhythm.
That would take 80 yards.
Of course it would. What do you mean he couldn't go all the way? Of course he went all the way. Why are we showing
this.
to you? You know what happened.
All right, Al, you think you might be able to teach me or show me how to do Howard Cosell's halftime highlights?
Come on, let's do it.
Let's go.
Hell of a comb over, by the way. I really like that.
Is it clear that I'm wearing a toupee? I hope it's...
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's what I'm afraid of.
The gray sideburns and the jet black toupee? No, not at all.
The one thing about this 100-year journey, I have been all in. If you're going to talk about Cosell with Al Michaels, you got to be all in.
You got to be in the harness, right? And you got to be able to do the halftime highlights.
Okay, I need a little coaching here.
All right, well, start off, and I'll walk you through the rest of it.
Now let's turn over to yesterday's highlights. The Eagles versus the Giants. Sound like Tom Moore there.
Gun ratio, check with me.
Okay. I got a bad imitation going. I'm one of those bad imitators that
right. But you have a cigarette, Peyton. You've got to stretch it out. That's Johnny Perkins right there, makes the catch his third. Now, we fast forward to Wilbert Montgomery bursting through the middle for a touchdown. The extra point was no good, but it's 17-12 Giants. Look at John McVay, the grandfather of the Rams coach, Sean McVay. All right, Howard, back to you.
From the Superdome in New Orleans, the high-flying Philadelphia Eagles versus the New Orleans Saints. I had a wonderful meal at Commander's Palace last night. Archie Manning, the 6'3" redhead from Drew, Mississippi, Ole Miss, #1 man, shoots to the air with a 24-yard strike to number 88, the tight end out of North Carolina, Brooks Williams. And here's Manning again, looking deep downfield to his favorite target, Wes Chandler from Florida, who makes a diving catch. I can only imagine how Manning's 4-year-old son must feel in the stands watching that one. Al, thanks for going down memory lane with us on this NFL's 100-year journey. You've been such a huge part of it. You've been a huge part of my football journey, calling so many of my games. I'll never forget being in this jacket and this harness,
oh my God.
And I am wearing a toupee, just remember that.